Have you been trying to lose weight? Do you find that no matter how hard you try, there is something that gets in the way? Perhaps it's the cravings, perhaps it's food addiction. I'm really glad today to have with me Todd, who is an expert in this matter, who's been coaching executives on how to make positive lifestyle changes. He's joining us from New York. Todd, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on your show.
So, Todd, if you could start with perhaps telling me about yourself and your company.
So I founded Fortitude Executive Coaching in 2020, and my company primarily focuses on working with executives who are striving to take their leadership skills to the next level and really build solid careers with balance and purpose. So you might ask yourself, well, how does that fit into weight loss as an example? But quite frankly, weight loss and nutrition can play a very key role in boosting, your capacity to manage stress and lead effectively. And that's why it's so interesting to me to learn and coach on this topic. One of the main reasons that I felt compelled to do this is because I see time and time again, many executives who the weight just kind of creeps up on them over time. And sometimes they don't even realize it. And it starts to impact their health. It starts to impact, the way they think and how they do things. And that's why I went to get more expert knowledge on this. And we took the course together, right, at Harvard Medical School for the health and wellness. Now, in 2024, I'm actually launching a brand new program, and I'm calling it the Executive 360. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to take a holistic approach looking at the executive as a whole. So in addition to, of course, the executive coaching and leadership coaching and life coaching that you do with an executive, and maybe some of the management and the leadership skill development, and looking at some of the behavioral assessments and the emotional intelligence types of inventories, I'm adding a health and nutrition aspect, and I'm adding a fitness aspect of it. So looking at the entire person and how can those things work together to support somebody develop their career, take on higher levels of responsibility, greater spans of control as their career progresses, and do it in a balanced and purposeful way.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, what I find fascinating is as people get older, often their responsibilities increase. They've got more senior positions, more responsibility, but equally, often that ties in with worsening health, gaining weight, not having enough time for themselves, perhaps not enough time to exercise or do the other things they need to do. So in your experience, tell me how you've seen or observed how deteriorating health can impact the functionality or performance of an executive.
Well, I mean, if you just think about poor health, just, in general, it means you're away from work. If you're, for example, a young executive and you're taking on, you just got a big promotion, or maybe your company it just went through an acquisition. So there's a major change going on. There's a lot of stressors going on there. If you've taken on greater responsibility, right, and you're learning at the same time, so you're going through a big learning curve. So it's a lot of stress that's put on your body. You're spending a lot of time trying to be successful at that effort, right? And most of the time, you start to eliminate things that you would have normally have done. And it just so happens that exercise and good eating habits tend to kind of fall to the wayside. And as we get older, as you mentioned, right, our metabolism slows down a little bit, right? Our hormones change a bit, right? And so we start to kind of put on some pounds. And then, of course, that can have some in some cases, devastating health impacts. And so if you're away from the job, you're not on the job, right? If you're stressed out and you can't think straight, right, it's tough to make decisions. So making sure that your body is fueled correctly, that you have exercise on a regular basis, and maintain a good, healthy weight, right? That helps you as you progress to higher and higher levels of responsibility and being able to maintain and cope with that stress.
Yeah, so Todd, I can tell you, when I start coaching people on weight loss, this is my opening salvo that the first thing you need to do is manage your stress. Because if you're overly stressed, the way it affects your hormones, your cortisol, your epinephrine, your sympathetic hormones, and has a negative effect on your parasympathetic hormones, and it just sets you up for failure. You won't have the motivation to go exercise, to eat healthily, and just having more steroid in your body through cortisol will make you gain weight independent of everything else. So how do you advise people on stress particularly? Because that's something I'm sure most of your clients are suffering from, being in those high power, high responsibility kind of roles. So what is the kind of pathway for those people to reduce their stress and then get on with improving their health?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And I think a lot of people tend to overthink it, tend to overcomplicate it. And I really think, at least in the beginning, I think there's some very simple strategies. And if you just think about the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine as an example, and you could take some very simple strategies just from those 6 pillars, right, that can easily, for example, help reduce craving, help reduce the cravings to eat, right? And if we just simply just take a very quick like snapshot view at each one of those, where we can see how each of them really can help us. So like we just talked about, the whole part about exercise. Now, obviously, among the many benefits of exercise in terms of your ability to burn calories and things like that, it's also a stress reliever, right? And as you mentioned, right, when you have higher stress, you have higher cortisol levels, right? And that initiates the food craving because your body says, I want more fuel, which is basically a craving. So if we can at least just get that minimum 150 minutes a week, right, of moderate exercise, right, to reduce the stress, keep those cortisol levels in check, right, and reduce those cravings, that alone right there, just 150 minutes, just to start with that. That's all you have to do. That could be just walking. It could be something very simple, but just get that 150 minutes in. And then if you want to do something more than that, you can build on top of that. And speaking of stress, right? Stress is one of those pillars in itself. And when we get stressed and we want to eat, what do we reach for? We reach for the candy, right? The hyper palatables. We don't, reach for a handful of broccoli, right? We reach for the stuff that's easy, the chips, the things like that, drinking the soda, right? And so there again, right, reducing that stress helps reduce those cravings, so we don't have to do that. The other thing about reducing stress is there's many things you can do besides exercise. There's meditation, there's yoga, but also if you think about it, having a couple close friends or spouse or family members that you can talk to, right, and talk about your issues. They can help, they can give you a support network, right? And those are those positive connections we talk about as one of those 6 pillars as well. So having a support network, a spouse, a friend that can help support you in your mission, in your goal to lose weight, or, when you want to reach for that candy, help you from not doing that. I think that's something that's very simple to do. And just have a confidant to be able to do that. Nutrition, big topic, right? Nutrition is a big topic, right? But if we just take a look at one little simple aspect of it, water, right? Think about that. If we just get that minimum of 90 ounces of water per day in our system, right? That's all, just 90 ounces. Make sure we get that, right? Because our body can fool ourselves. We think we're hungry, but in fact, we're thirsty, right? We're a little dehydrated, right? So if we just make sure we just drink a couple bottles of water, get those 90 ounces in every day, that alone is going to reduce the cravings to eat. And you probably have some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, actually it worked really well. Something I do sometimes, because I do a bit of intermittent fasting as well. If I'm breaking a fast, I would drink a lot of water before breaking the fast. I would also probably eat an apple or have a bit of salad to blunt your hunger, because the last thing you want to do is just undo everything by having a huge buffet meal and just, hugging on all those candies and sweets. And so, yes, drinking water is